Hello folks, I am going to attempt to touch up my water buffalo mounted head where the horns attach to the skull. There's cracks, especially right here. That's a big hole. In doing so, I'm going to be using this PC7 epoxy. It's a two-part epoxy. So I'm going to pause while I mix the epoxy, and I'm going to tape off the hair and the horns, the parts that I don't want to get epoxy on. Alright, I have taped this off. I don't press the tape on because I want to be able to pull it off without pulling any of the hairs off. I try to isolate the area that I'm going to be working at. Now I'm going to mix the epoxy. Alright, I have gotten my epoxy open, two-part. I looked for a paintable epoxy so that I can paint it that color brown. This is something I dug out of our recycle bin. It's an old Folgers lid. I've got an old putty knife and I ground it down a little to get some of the crud off it. I try to mix up about half of what I got at a time. That way if I make mistakes, I still got half of my product left. This stuff has a 1 hour working time. If you use Bondo, which is fine. Bondo has about a 15-minute working time. I'm going to apply this with the putty knife to those cracks, and we'll come back and see what it looks like. Okay, I've put it in the cracks on this side. What I do is we get it on there pretty thick. As it hardens, I work it. As this starts to get hard, I'll come in and pull the tape off and start working it. I don't want it to set up all the way. I've done that with Bondo. Once it sets up all the way, it's almost impossible to work with. Alright, that's one side. Okay, I've got this side done now. I'm actually going to hit some of these eyeballs. But before I do that, I'm going to hit the eyeballs before it hardens up some. Didn't notice that. Might as well give it a shot. Try to shape them up a little bit. And then we're going to come back and pull the tape off. So I've touched up around these nostrils. We'll come back and we'll sand them off. So we're going to pull this tape off and see what we got. So with the tape pulled off, you can see I kept most of it in the cracks. I'm going to pull the tape off this side. Then we're going to come back and try to smooth it down some more. We're going to keep working it while it dries. Alright, I've got about all the epoxy on that I want to put on. I pulled the tape off. Now, I had some on my fingers and it washed right off. So I'm going to try to do some shaping with a wet thumb. Ooh, look at that. It's kind of like working with clay. Now, when it dries, we won't have to work it so much. I'm going to try to wash it off my fingers every time I stick my fingers in here. I'm pushing it into cracks. Alright, now for the eyeballs. Wow, that doesn't look bad. Nostril. I'm digging it. Yeah. Alright, folks. I am really digging it. I'm going to let this sit up overnight. And then give our friend a paint job in the morning. I wish I had some hair that I could try to glue on at these bald spots. But I think Fred has a bald spot. Looks much better than having those big cracks.